Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Two for Tuesday, where we talk technology with friends. Today, I'm super excited to have Richard Medina, a principal consultant here at DocuLabs, as a guest for today's show. Richard, how are you doing?
Outstanding. Thanks, Marty.
All right, so why don't we jump right into it? The title of your question is how to become an IDP hero at your company.
That's
So,
that's
Richard,
the
how do you
title.
become a hero?
So, so introduce IDP, intelligent document processing, into your organization. So you may have heard about intelligent document processing. What it is the introduction, the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning into handling documents. Documents that might start out as paper or might be images or might be emails or whatever. And the idea is that we use artificial intelligence and machine learning to help classify what documents they are, extract all the relevant information that you need from them, validate what you got for completeness and correctness, and then hand it over to the downstream lines of business and systems that use that information. What's new about our IDP, as opposed to the 1990s or even as far back as 2022, is the advances that have occurred in artificial intelligence and machine learning, which make formerly intractable documents identifiable, reduce unidentifiable documents that you would have to use humans for to go straight through and so on. There are some disadvantages to it and still a very young technology, but we can talk about that later. Right now we're talking about the good stuff. So job number one is to get familiar with it. Job number two is to identify in your organization about the business case for IDP. And there are typically three groups that you are looking at for the business case for achieving value. The first is IT. It might be a center of excellence for capture, or it might just be some IT group. The second is the capture operations, if you have one, like a scanning or document capture organization. And the third group are the actual lines of business. So take an example of a bank, it might be loan origination. If you look at IT, the primary benefits that you should be delving into for this new technology are first to really attain high levels of accuracy and automation that were not achievable before with old style, old schooly OCR and so on, in classification and extraction and validation. The second, so you can push through more documents per hour, and that means less labor, fewer people can do more, and so on. The second is to address changed and new documents. That is, you're always getting new document types and so on. And even with AI, you can use it to know those new documents, but it takes what's called training. But the newest technologies let you automate that, so you don't have to know the new document types that are coming in. It can learn those and be able to identify them. And the third one is shorten the development cycle and reduce the development costs if you want to bring on new work streams or make modifications and so on. It's low code, no code. You might be asking, hasn't it always been low code, no code, at least for the last 5 years? And the answer is no, this is pretty new stuff. The second group of folks for the business case are capture operations. So you might have a departmental or even an enterprise capture operations center, which might do a few 100,000 or a few million or 50 million pages per year. And they're very cost margin conscious and so on. And using this technology, you can dramatically reduce your technology costs by having fewer, consolidating around the new vendors. Secondly, reduce your labor costs, so you don't have to do all the doc prep and the data entry and then the QA. Third, you can take on more work streams and volume, more work with the same number of people. And last, you can meet your customer SLAs and make them happy, make them satisfied. Now, both your internal customers, like the lines of business, but also your external customers, the ultimate customers. So the third
Richard,
group of,
all right,
go ahead, I'm
keep
sorry.
going.
Oh, the
I
third
was
group
going
of
to
people,
say,
go ahead.
so when you go to these groups of people, like, what you're saying, how do you get their buy-in?
Good way to show is is what you can show is that the current way, business as usual, and what you're doing for how your flow through rate of documents, how many documents per hour you're able to process, or how many seconds it takes you to process each document, and then you can extrapolate the math as to how slow it is, how much it costs, and so on. That's the easiest way to make the business case. But it gets even more interesting for the lines of business. So rather than IT, where you're talking about being able to develop the software and provide the solutions, or capture, which is being able to actually use the solutions, you've got the lines of business where you're taking advantage of the solutions. So they're a customer of this IDP. And the best way that we found, though it is a little bit more complex, is to go to the different business users and understand what their objectives are, their business objectives, and their key performance indicators are. So if you're looking at loan origination, it's not just labor, or it's not just technology costs. It's rather, for loan origination, it's KPIs like improved pull-through rate, or abandoned loan rate, or application approval rate. That is, how many loans per unit time do they get? How many do they lose because the customer fires them? How much time does the bank waste because I think it's a pretty good loan, but then, oops, we have to reject it. So that was a false positive, and I spent all these resources doing it. If you can address those, you'll make the lines of business really happy. So how do you do that? You understand at a superficial level what the processes are, and then reduce cycle time for each of them. So in loans, it's the loan application, and then it's the loan approval, then it's the loan closing, then it's the funding. And you can shorten the cycle time in each of those, and thereby shorten the entire cycle time of the loan and improve all those KPIs that I mentioned. So how do you do that? You digitize and automate using IDP. So you reduce the amount of NIGOs, not in good orders, the errors, and thus the amount of rework, the amount of data entry, the amount of QA, QC, validation that has to be done, because it's going through straight through highly accurately. Reduce status queries. Where's my stuff? And latencies, where it sits. So all of this you can do with IDP. And I just mentioned the 3 different constituencies and the 3 different kinds of business cases you can do. Thanks.
All right, Richard. So I want to be an IDP hero at my company. But the problem is, IDP, there's a lot of new vendors out there, right? This new technology, it is amazing. But how do I know what vendor to go to? What's the right questions?
Okay, so it's not just both with IDP, and then IDP is a species of broader AI, and now of even generative AI. And so folks think of it as magic, or even dangerous magic, and so on. But to cut to the chase, there are 4 questions that you should be asking, and they're not entirely obvious. The first one is a bit obvious, and that is, you go to your vendor, who may be your existing capture vendor, or some of the new folks out on the street like AWS and Microsoft and so on, and ask whether they can innovate. That is, are you competitive in IDP? Can the vendor successfully develop and provide these advanced AI and machine learning IDP capabilities? It's not a dumb question. The reason for that is advances in AI for IDP are going so quickly that most of the vendors out there won't be able to keep up. So most of them are using older algorithms and methods. By older, I mean pre-2022, even pre-2017, and they're not able to keep up and innovate. Part of it, and so what they need to do is to partner with some of the folks who do, either the cloud vendors like Google or AWS or Microsoft, or some other vendors that are able to do that. And then the issue they have is, do they offer enough value over and above what the cloud vendors are doing to still stay alive? Anyway, so that's a real issue for you. So that ability to innovate, if they don't have it today, is it in the technical roadmap? So ask what their technical roadmap is, and really if they are going to be including the new large language models and so on. The second one, what's called productization. What this means is, are you for real, vendor? Are you are you two folks in a garage outside of Stanford who have created something, or is it actually a company? So can the vendor successfully productize and market and sell and deliver and support these capabilities? So a lot of this is like, if you think about like Tesla, the Tesla truck, or any kinds of cars, where you've got the engine, which might be newfangled and awesome, but you also need a vehicle around it. In our case, the vehicle is the workflow and the human in the loop and the management software and so on around this core engine. And then you need the supporting environment, the manufacturing, marketing, mechanics, suppliers, and so on. For a lot of the vendors out there, they can't do that. And then the third one is, can we, your company, who you're trying to be a hero for, successfully use the IDP? That is, how much of a disruption is it going to be if I go from this old-fashioned legacy or historical capture system to something brand new? Is it going to be a complete disruption? Is it sustainable, and so on? And even if I can use it, can I get sufficient return on investment for it? Or is it going to be so expensive and in that house? And that leads me to the fourth one, and this is one of the core problems of the new large language models for IDP. Call it the precision problem. They aren't precise. That is, they are very confident BSers. They will confidently give you the wrong answer. If you are looking for the policy numbers of customers or the loan numbers of your clients, and you throw in a restaurant menu, they'll give you back its Reuben sandwich as the policy number. And so those are called false positives. And you want it for most of when you're dealing with dollars and you're dealing with regulated data, you want to reduce those as much as possible. In order to do that with one of these large language models, you've got to do so much verification, QC, and so on, that it doesn't make business sense. So that's something that folks are working on, That's something that the vendors are working on, but it's still a problematic area. So those are the core questions you should be asking to be a hero for IDP
All right,
at your
Richard.
organization.
Well, as you can tell, Richard's our IDP hero here at Doculabs. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in this week. And Rich, thanks a lot for your time as well. Thanks.
Thanks.